Okay, in this video, I'm going to go through 6 different examples. If you need help identifying coefficients, variables, exponents, and terms in algebraic expressions, this will help you. So in the first example, number 1, okay, I've got the expression negative 3x squared, okay? Technically, if you broke this down, this is the product of negative 3 times x squared, okay? And so the number that is being multiplied, that is in front of the variable, so negative 3, is being multiplied with the variable of x in this case, or x squared, okay? That number is called the coefficient, okay? So I always say the number attached to the variable. So in this case, negative 3 is our coefficient. The variable is always the letter that is being used to represent an unknown value. In this case, we don't know what number should be in for x, so they use a letter, in this case x, to put a placeholder there. So we know there's supposed to be a number there, we just don't know what it is yet. And so instead they put a variable or a letter to let us know that there should be a number there, we just don't know what it is yet. Okay, so exponents, there is an exponent, and that exponent is visible as a value of 2. So x to the second power, that little number is our exponent. So we have an exponent of 2. Now the number of terms. So number of terms, we've got, let me erase this mark right here, okay? So if we go to the number of terms, well, negative 3x squared, that itself is a term. So when you have a product of something, like we have the product of negative 3 times x squared, so negative 3x squared in its entirety is in itself a term. So we only have one term in this expression, and that's negative 3x squared. Okay, number 2. Number 2, 6x plus 7x. We've got 2 different terms here. So I'm kind of starting backwards on this one. 6x and 7x, because they're separated with the addition symbol, that tells us they're 2 separate terms. So the number of terms is 2. The coefficients are 6 and 7. 6 and 7, because they are both attached to a variable. The variable, there's 2 different variables of x, but we're just going to write x because that's the only letter that's involved in the expression. So we see the variable x showing up twice. And then the exponents, I don't see any exponents. Now, technically, there's always invisible exponents of 1 that you could put above the variables, even above the constants that are there, the coefficients, okay? Because 6 to the first power is 6, x to the first power is x, so it doesn't change anything, which is why that they do not put those invisible exponents there. They just leave them out because it doesn't change the expression. So technically, though, for our scenarios here, we'll just say there are no or none. As far as exponents goes, there are none. Okay. All right, number 3. We'll do it in orange. Number 3, the coefficients. So this is where a lot of people get they miss they make this common mistake, okay? So anywhere there's a variable, there's a coefficient, okay? So even this x squared term, technically, there's an invisible coefficient of 1 right in front of it. It's really 1x squared. The reason they don't put it is because 1 times x squared is just x squared, right? So they don't need to put the 1 there because it doesn't change anything. But technically, there is a coefficient of 1, and another coefficient with 3x, there's a coefficient of 3. So there's a coefficient of 1 and 3 in this expression. All right. Now, the variables, we just have a variable of x involved. Exponents, we do have an exponent of 2 with x squared. And the number of terms, there are 3 terms. There's let me just erase a little bit right here. So there are 3 terms. We've got x squared plus, which means now we have another term, 3x is another term. And another addition sign, which means the next thing is also a term, 4. So we have 3 different terms in that one. Okay, let's go to number 4. Number 4, I don't see any letters on number 4. So right away there are, as far as variables go, there are none. Coefficients, you can't have a coefficient if there are no variables, because a coefficient is a number attached to a variable. So we only have a number here, no variables. So there's no coefficients, no variables. Exponents, nope, don't see any. And number of terms, well, -1 itself is what we call a constant, and a number by itself. And a number by itself is still a term. So we do have one term there in that expression. Okay, number 5. Okay, number 5, 4x to the third power. So 4x to the third power plus 2. Okay, so we have 2 terms here, right? Because we have 2 components being separated by an addition symbol. So 2 terms. I see an exponent of 3, a variable letter x for our variable. And coefficients, I have one coefficient of 4 because that number 4 is attached to a variable x. Okay. All right, let's go to the last one. So the last one, number 6, 5x to the 7th power. We have a coefficient of 5, a variable of x, an exponent of 7, and this whole thing, 5x to the 7th, is a product of 5 times x to the 7th power. So if that's really what it is broken down, 5x to the 7th is a product of 2 components. So that is itself one term. So 5x to the 7th is a term. And there's our 6 examples.